Hey, welcome to Graphic Policy Television, GPTV. I'm Brett. In my hands is Maniac of New York. Bronx is Burning. Number 2. I'm loving this series. I'm really, really enjoying this. It's written by Elliott, Kalan. Andrea Mutti is the artist and colorist. Taylor Esposito is the letterer. So the series is about this a guy named Maniac Harry. Maniac Harry is like a classic slasher. I think Jason and Michael Myers and all those characters, except he exists in the real world, and it's come to the point where people of New York are just kind of like dealing with him. He does his thing, murders people. The cops kind of like sort of just deal with it. We have two officers who are the ones who are actually trying to stop him, and this issue or this series volume, Harry has decided to head to the Bronx and he's chopping up a skull. We don't really know why. He does what he does. So it's interesting. I think this is really, really kind of fascinating. Like, the previous issue set things up. Harry started kind of going on his murder spree, and we kind of get the follow-up and fallout from the previous volume. So this one, I think, is fascinating. This issue and the series as a whole is that, horror films often are reflections or, kind of have some themes and take on real-world issues and kind of mask them in, violence and horror. A great example is always, the threat of communism and consumerism in Romero Zombie's films. That's kind of like the perfect example of it. So this one, the fact that it takes place in school and the way some of the people are acting, I think is fascinating. Obviously we're in the age of mass school shootings, the bureaucracy and processes that have gone along with that, while intentions are good, let's be honest, they kind of drag things down at times and don't really solve issues. And that seems to be a lot of what this issue is dealing with, at least this volume is dealing with. Not only do we have the stupidity at the mayoral level of how to deal with things, but now you have this charter school, private school, and, a principal calling the bosses is, the owners of the school and being like, what should I do, as opposed to calling the police. There's something that feels very comedic isn't the wrong word, and satirical isn't quite right, but it's definitely taking shots, I think, at the current situation. And honestly, I don't see this as a reflection about school shootings so much as COVID and what we're seeing as a paralysis of decisions by school leaders and elected officials. I mean, there's definitely, I think, a case to be made that that's what this volume is taking some pot shots at. And when not the whole volume is the point is like that's I don't think that's necessarily the case, but there's definitely moments in the comic that are absolutely taking pot shots at how we've handled the pandemic for the last couple of years. Not just with schools, but I think just as a whole. You've got a mayor who wants to ignore what's going on and just live with it. Sounds familiar. You've got schools who aren't looking out safety for the children and seem to be more looking at bottom lines and statistical numbers and processes that are outdated and just don't work, and aren't willing to think outside of the box and actually solve problems. Like there's an absolute case to be made that's what this volume is kind of taking some shots at. So overall, I'm liking it. Just as a slasher story, forget that deeper stuff, but just as a slasher story, it's a really cool comic. I think it captures the style and the what you'd expect from that type of story, really, really well. The art is cool as well. I like the style. I think it fits the story in the series. There is a bit of blood in this one, but I think what's nice when it comes to the art is that it doesn't go over the top with the violence and the gross aspects to it. I think that I've always been bothered about slasher films is, there was a tendency of how much to the edge can we go, what type of violence can we do, how can we chop up the bodies and show it, stuff like that. I actually am less is more. Let the mind and the person imagine what's going on, and maybe show the aftermath, and that's it. And even then, the aftermath, tease the aftermath. Don't actually go into tons of detail. To me, like, a great example of that is Scream, like the opening scene with the boyfriend, and they eviscerate him in the gut, and like you see the after effects of it, but like you don't actually see him getting opened up, and like just the screaming and the noise and the sound effects and all, like that is way more terrorizing than if you actually saw it opening up, because it's not going to quite work. It's going to be slightly comical. So yeah, I like how the comics does that and handles that really well. So overall, like, if you're a fan of slasher comics, if you're a fan of horror, check this out. I think there's some great storytelling when it just comes to that. If you like the idea of horror having a little bit deeper something to say, this is really cool as well. I'm excited to see where this issue goes and the series go. I'm pumped about it. I'm hoping we get more sequels. It's horror. The killer always comes back, right? So this is out in comic shops now. You can go get it. We've got a link beneath this video. Put in your zip code to help the comic shops near you. No shop, no problem. We do have some links. There'll be affiliate links, so we get a small percentage by doing that. You'll support our site, so thank you. And speaking of support, I want to thank AfterShock for hooking us up with the review copy, and of course, thank you all for watching. If you're into comics, if you're into AfterShock, check us out every single day at graphicpolicy.com. We're on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Tumblr, all at Graphic Policy, keeping it nice and consistent. Until next time, keep reading those comics, and keep it geeky. Hey, thanks for watching the previous video from Graphic Policy Television. Just by watching, you help support our site. Thank you so much. Now, if you're watching these videos, you probably care about geeky things like movies, television, comic books, toys, games, video games, you name it. You can go and subscribe right now to our YouTube channel to stay in touch and catch all the new videos, or check out our website at graphicpolicy.com. There's a nice link on this end of the video. But as always, thank you for watching. Keep on rocking and keep it geeky.